Why did God create the world knowing that evil would do so much to wreck it? A few years ago we lived up in another part of the country. One beautiful June day a local man went on a shooting spree and shot dead 12 people before turning the gun on himself. I was in the local hospital that afternoon as the air ambulance brought in the victims. I was wearing my clerical dog collar and a senior doctor came up to me, shaken, and said grimly, "I don't envy you your job over these next few days." Well, I honestly felt like saying, "I don't envy you yours either." But I knew what she meant. How was I to speak about an all-powerful God of love on a day when evil had struck such a devastating blow? Wasn't this the time to abandon faith in such a God? But in that moment, a light switched on in my mind. I realised that no one has much of any use to say in the face of evil. And while the Bible certainly doesn't tell us everything we'd like to know or be interested to know about God and evil, it says enough for us to live with a well-founded hope. And that is more than can be found anywhere else. So why would God create the world knowing full well that evil would cause devastation? That was a question many asked in response to our recent survey. Well, the Bible teaches that in the beginning, evil was not there. Now, let's be clear that is very different from most other outlooks. They say that the bad stuff is just mixed in with the good stuff right from the start, that the good stuff and the bad stuff need each other. They sort of exist in a kind of balance, yin and yang, peas and carrots, good and evil together from the beginning. No, says the Bible. When God made the world, evil was not part of it. The devil is not an eternal being. He is an angel who was created good, but then he turned away from God and from goodness and dragged and involved humanity in his rebellion. And so evil entered the good creation, not as something God made, but as a destructive deviation from goodness. Now that matters. You see, if evil is just part of the world from the start, then what hope is there of ever getting rid of it? None. But if evil is not an integral part of the world, then it can be kicked out. And that is God's plan through Jesus Christ. Jesus beat evil. Amazingly, he beat it through a combined act of satanic and human evil. That is, the crucifixion. And then he rose again to establish a new kind of human life, fit for a perfect world where evil will have been completely ejected. He'll come back one day to do that, to eject evil, destroying it completely. But you might say, God knew the devil would do what he did, so why did he decide to create that angel in the first place, knowing what would happen? Why not destroy him the moment he rebelled? Or another question, why not deny humanity free will to ensure that we never went along with the devil, even if that would prevent us ever truly loving God? Well, bear with me as I try to help us think about why he didn't stop evil before it began, nipping it in the bud. Have you ever seen positive results coming from things that in themselves are bad? I think most of us have. A relationship that got better after conflict, a life lived better after an illness, a character strengthened through having to forgive. We all hate evil, but we can see on a small scale that it sometimes serves a purpose. Well, God certainly hates evil. But what if he allowed it in his creation for a time to serve a greater purpose, to bring about a future greater than could otherwise have been gained? After all, that's the pattern demonstrated in Jesus' death, where he brought the highest good out of the greatest evil. Now, I'm not saying that I can see how the terrible evil that we do see in this world can serve a purpose, but just because I can't see a purpose doesn't mean there can't be one. So I could conclude that God is senseless and cruel to use this evil that appears so senseless. That's the way of despair. Or I could reason that since evil is beyond my understanding, then the future it serves must be all the greater. That's the way of hope. I mean, it all boils down eventually to this. Who is God, really? A senseless and cruel tyrant? Or a purposeful and loving father? Is this world's history with its blood and tears just a project to him, a kind of game, an experiment? Far from it. At the centre of the Bible stands the cross, where God's own Son shed his blood to defeat evil. If this world were just a game, a project, an experiment, he would not have bled for it. There were many questions about that shooting that no one can answer. But God gives us enough answers to hold on to a well-grounded hope. There is a purpose, even if I can't see one. There is a future coming in which evil has no place. As it was not there in the beginning, so it will be removed at the end. But then perhaps for you the question is much more personal. You're asking, why did evil and suffering strike that person? Why me? Well, that's the subject of our next video.